Oh, and it looks like we're live. Hello, everybody. With me, I have Lime for Reals, and Lime for Reals and I we've collaborated before. We did an animation together where Lime provided the audio.
Yes, I did. Or yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
it did pretty well. I mean, it did get a lot of views. Well, at least views, for my channel size.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, I thought it was a good video. It was a good thing to call attention to how,
Yes, so
um,
why did you want to talk about, like, why did you speak up when, Clarence Thomas was called the N-word?
um, I just think it's wrong because even even if you don't have respect for a specific person who's black, if you're well on a different side politically from them, it's not okay to refer to them as a racial slur that has been used to denigrate the whole of the black community just because you don't like one person, because it makes it about their race and not the thing that they've done that you dislike, that you disagree with. And uh, I think there's too much of that, and that's should not be uh, normalized. It should not be considered to be okay.
Have you run into that behavior frequently, or is it rare for you to see that behavior?
It's certainly rare to see them outright use that word, but I do see things from some people. I'm on the left, of course. People on in quotes on my side who have kind of a this attitude towards uh, people of color who are that they should be. Um, I got to think of an example of this. Uh, where like, oh, people of color should be proud to have my service and just make it a lot about themselves, which I think which you've called attention to when you had an animation about allies, or quote unquote allies.
Ye-
Um, I think that's
Yeah,
very
yeah, like
different.
I was thinking about that, like with Vosh. I mean, it's not supposed to necessarily be Vosh. It's just that I used the Vosh
Yeah.
as an inspiration, but it wasn't necessarily Vosh because before anybody goes like, actually, like before anybody goes actually, it's not
Yeah.
exactly Vosh. It's much more like a trend that I see, particularly on Twitter, where it's kind of a lot like, like I care about Black people and I care, but it's like, there's this one time, and it was a long time ago because it was back when the alt right was still on Twitter. And what I
Mhm.
did was that I was going through who people were following. And, like there are people on the left and they would follow like zero Black people. They would actually be following like no Black people at all whatsoever. They would share no Black YouTubers. But I would find them alt right. And what I thought was ironic and really, really weird was that I would find alt rights accounts that are following like 10 Black people. I would find alt writers following 20 Black people and retweeting Black people, not quote tweeting, but actually retweeting Black
Yeah.
people. Their favorite person to retweet was Candace Owens, and another
Uh,
favorite, one of their other favorites, aside from Candace Owens, was like Larry Elder. They would just like,
yeah.
be retweeting in like agreement, like, yeah, I agree with this person.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Rage After Storm, or I think that was her name. She in the thick of all the controversy over her Race is Real video, she was very close with Tree of Logic, was it?
Yeah,
And they
Tree
would,
of Logic. It was weird because Tree of Logic made a video to defend Rage at the Storm. It like Rage at the Storm is my best friend. She's my homegirl, and it was like really, really weird and strange to watch because like Rage at the Storm is a white supremacist. So how could a white supremacist be your best friend while you are black? It's just so weird. It's kind of like, are you sure this is the hill you want to die on?
yeah. It was weird. I think there's like an archive of this, some web archive or something of kind of the exchange, and then I think a Tree of Logic called some black guy one of the low IQ black people that Rage was talking about. Just some really crazy shit.
It's just so weird. It's just really, really, really weird, And I mean, I followed Millennial Votes, like not vigorously, but I had
Yeah.
to watch his interview with a black guy. And there's this black guy, his name's like Arian. No, he was a black guy. His name was Aaron. And he called himself an alt-rights ally. It was really because Aaron is a black guy. He has dreadlocks. I first heard of him because Hunter Avalon, he interviewed Aaron and promoted Aaron. And then Aaron eventually like went to like Millennium Woes' channel and he called himself an alt-rights ally. And it's like it was really weird and strange.
Oh man. It's just, I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, it does feel like really weird and strange. So it's kind of like yeah, it's quite weird when people are what we're thinking. Like, yeah, I didn't make a video. It was loosely based off Vosh, or at least I used Vosh as an inspiration. But it's
Yeah.
something like I made it because of like a trend that I see, like on the left, as opposed to it's being about Vosh in particular, because it's
Yeah.
kind of a lot like, you know, it's kind of like how can you care so much about Black people, but you follow zero Black people, you don't retweet to a single Black person, you don't follow a
Yeah.
single Black YouTuber, you just go like, I care, and you just kind of make it all about yourself and
Yeah.
about your own ego.
Like this, I'm a spokesman for Black issues as a white guy, white guy with a man bun and a beard. Just like, yes, I, a liberal white man, am the spokesperson for Black people.
Yeah,
And
because oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
and Black people should be grateful for my uh for my service. My it's just it's the worst. It's not it's not it's not allyship. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, it's funny because it's kind of like they think that Black people should be grateful, but they make Black issues all about themselves, and it just seems like they care more about using allyship to, promote their YouTube channel. It's like, I care about Black people, buy my merch.
Yeah, allyship as a brand. I'm the progressive, modern, liberal or leftist who is, making the change and also making a lot of money off the change, and kind of like I don't know how to describe it. But yeah, actually Vosh was the example I was thinking of when I was, because I think Cat Black was also talking about or took issue with how Vosh was making the the thing with J.K. Rowling kind of about himself and his kind of way of his approach to, I guess, activism, which was saying women should be quiet more or something, which is, I guess, one of the things that, like, the kind of sense of humor that Vosh has, but outside of that realm, outside of his fan base, it just looks like he's like just being misogynistic.
Well,
And yeah, sorry.
well, the way I was thinking of it, and I invited Lapis to speak about this, but she was a lot more vocal in the Amston in the live stream. But basically, when he said women shut up and be quieter challenge, but I mean but he said that in defense of trans people, as if trans women don't exist, or as if he's separating trans women from the term women, as if, like, but from what I've seen, like, trans people wants the word women to be an all inclusive term instead of an exclusive term that only counts cisgendered women.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he got a lot of flack because from trans people. I mean, not all trans people, of course, because he has a lot of trans people in his fan base. But he got a lot of flack because he was one of the biggest voices who was speaking against J.K. Rowling, or one of the most amplified, one of the, he had a very high or big follower platform, and he said, women should be more quiet or something, and that was what J.K. Rowling responded to. So there was a lot of, dis. There was a lot of opposition from trans people who thought that having that be his allyship when he's the biggest voice being on this, the one that she responds to, it just made them look bad from a cis guy who's not, and he's not in the, he doesn't deal with the issues that trans women deal with, or trans people deal with.
Yeah, and it just seems like even ContraPoints pointed out that it seems like Vosh was, excluding trans women for the term from the term women, when he said women shut up and keep quiet or challenge in defense of trans people, as if trans women don't exist, or as if trans women shouldn't be called women.
Yeah. Even if you had said, cis women shut up and be more quiet, that still would be bad for trans people. It would still, I think, because it's kind of, well, it's attacking cis women on behalf of trans women, and also still making a separation. I mean, obviously, separate, like women are supposed to be against each other or something.
Yeah, ContraPoints didn't want cis women and trans women to be pitted against each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah. And she's right about that. It's not. how it should go, or not good for either group, because if you're fighting for the rights of someone or of your group, you want to be not splintering, I guess.
Yeah,
Or not
yeah.
fracturing.
Yeah, yeah. You would want to have more people on your side instead of turning people against you, or pits cis women against trans women.
Yeah. Like, for instance, sorry. Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Uh, yeah, like if they, face, similar rates issues with violence and assault, and or like sexual violence or something, then that's, they should want to, or they should be kind of unified against the uh, whatever is creating that, whatever force is empowering the us sexual assaulters or something, then not, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. There would be power in a numbers, and two people amplifying each other's voices rather than tearing each other down.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, and then another example I just remembered of, when I don't know, I don't think Vosh was, I guess, speaking on behalf of Black people in this instance, but it was still kind of telling how his allyship is, when he was talking about, I think her name is Kimberly Klacik. She was running for office in the U.S. And he said every Black conservative is the same, or something, some buffoonish racist statement like that, or I think he didn't even say conservative, but I think he added that on after, that he meant conservative, and then he was talking about her hair being straightened or something, which is not a good thing for him to be saying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like you can see how my hair is. Okay, it's not straight, but it's kind of straight, and that's really pissed me off and gets under my skin. Like, why do all Black women wear their hair like that? Like that, what he actually said. He said, why do all Black women wear their hair like that? And I felt like cussing him out, because it's like I really feel like cussing him out. Like, he managed to unite Black people on like both sides with that. Like, there were Black people on the left who got angry with that, and there are Black people on the right who got angry with that. There were Black centrists who got angry with that. It just created something, whether you were a Black right winger, a Black left winger, a Black centrist. Pretty much all Black people get angry with, like, like, what do you mean? Why do all Black women wear their hair like that? And he was like,
Mhm.
Black women should be wearing it in afro. And it's like, it's rude and insulting, because it's like, from being Black in a predominantly Black work environment, it's like, I'm not even the only person who has like straight hair. Like, in a Black work environment, I saw a Black woman with blonde straight hair. I would see Black women who dyed their hair blonde. I'll see Black women who dyed their hair red. I have seen, Black women, and they would keep their hair straight. I can't think of a single black woman that I've seen in an afro, except for like one of those like little shorts afros. But it's usually like lesbians. It's usually lesbians who have those little short afro, and they're trying to signify that they're gay. Like it's
Yeah.
usually for a man to not approach them. It's like, don't approach me. I'm gay.
Yeah. It's like, who appointed Vosh the decider of what anyone should do with anyone else other than himself should do with their hair, and also what makes him think that his opinion on that matters for anything. Like his thoughts on what uh, Kimberly Klacik does with her hair, or what any black woman should be doing with her hair, when yeah, there's discrimination, or there is discrimination about how people wear their hair, or if they don't straighten their hair, or they do. It's all, there's stuff that Vosh will never experience in that way, that he's just completely not accounting for, not paying attention to. And that it pissed me off. It was like, no.
Yeah, it pissed me off too. Like it really made me feel like really, really angry. Like I felt like cussing about like I was like, how dare you? And I even had like a friend, his name is Tyler Preston. He makes back centrist content, and he was like, you know what? How dare you say that? How dare you? He was like when he really went off on Vosh. He went off on him, and no that, but I think there were people like who were in a there were black people in a live stream with Vosh that went off on him. They brought up like, what do you mean that all black women look the same? Like that is like old school racist. That is really, really old school, like grandpappy racist, like something like your great grandfather would say.
Mhm. For real. Like, I don't know. He's just he's just one of the, or on numerous occasions, I was going to say consistently, been exemplified some of the most egregious uh, subconscious bigotry that there is on the left, than I've noticed. For instance, if he's talking about how, if he's debunking Candace Owens, he's going to make it about how she's like a traitor to black people or something.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Oh
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because like he made this video, and it really pissed me off. Not because it's like I didn't mind him debunking at Candace Owens. That I didn't mind that at all. It was funny he was debunking Candace Owens, but he kept calling her in, and I quote, Aunt Tom the whole entire time. Like she's just an Aunt Tom, Aunt Tom, Aunt Tom. He kept using that word and stuff. It's like, why are you making it about her race? Even if Candace Owens was born white, let's just say she was born white. Are you saying that you're gonna like her more?
Yeah. No, it's so, it's just wrong for wrong. um, I'm trying to think if there's another example, but I think there was another uh, candidate who was running for office who was also a black woman. I think her name was Laverne Spicer. Not sure exactly where she was running, but I saw a few kind of left-leaning or leftist people, or liberals who were talking about how, or were kind of making fun of the way she was talking, um, and it read as kind of racist to me too. Or I mean, they probably weren't intending it to be that way, but they seemed very like malicious and kind of like
When I
like
think about racism in the left, I think about how Vosh said the strategic use of the N word.
oh yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, he was talking to the, I think he was on the Ralph retort or something. One of those things. I know Ethan Ralph was on that, and he, uh, I think he said, or someone else said N word, and then he said, "You realize you can just say," and then he said the word. Yeah, and I think he explained that by saying he was trying to shock them or say that their language had no effect on him, which is not the best way to do that, I don't think, probably. But yeah, he just stands by that.
Yeah, and there were a lot. There were other people who were back to what's it, Clarence Thomas. There were quite a few other people that made racist remarks about him. I was surprised that one of them was from Toronto, Canada. That was the one that surprised me because it's like you don't even live here. You don't even
Yeah,
live here. You live in a different country. Like it wouldn't even have any effect on you, but there's a guy from Toronto, Canada, that called Clarence Thomas a failed. Then he used the N word.
oh my God, dude, that's Toronto is 45 minutes away from where I live, so it's like, no, I don't want people who speak like that to be near me or around me. Um, and I think a lot of the kind of racism culture that we around that kind of word, that kind of uh, terminology comes from the US, although there was, of course, slavery in some parts of Canada, and there was, of course, racial inequality as well for a long time, and it still persists in some ways. But we, it's like I don't understand it. I don't I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like I was just really surprised, especially when I figured out that he was a Canadian from Toronto, and it's like, why? How could you be so racist to use the N word when you don't even live in America? So the Roe v. Wade topic doesn't even affect you.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like our the conservatives in Canada are anyone who is like within the mainstream of the conservatives of Canada is not really pro-life in the way that U.S. conservatives are. So, like, our last conservative leader, Aaron O'Toole, was, I think he was pro-choice, and he was like, I don't want to reopen the abortion issue. I think the candidate before him, Andrew Scheer, didn't want to reopen the abortion topic. So it's not really infiltrating over here in the same way that the kind of hard right conservatism has effect in uh, in the U.S. Like like the Conservative Party here is more liberal than well, much more than the Republicans in the U.S. and in some cases more than some members of the Democratic Party. Like because we have universal healthcare is not like the best system of it that there is, but we do have it. And for the most part, they're not trying to privatize that or make it more like the US system. So we're kind of more to the left than the majority of the US, at least in that respect. Like we're not like a country where socialism is a very, or at least like actual socialism is very widespread to be held. I mean, there are socialists here, and of course, um, but it's not the prevailing ideology or anything. But still,
Yeah, like when I was watching J.J. McCullen, he didn't seem like J.J. McCullen is a Canadian gay conservative, but like he comes across as more left wing than some Democrats.
yeah. Like our conservatives are more centrist, which I think is why there's been kind of a split in recently in the conservative movement. Of course, I'm not a conservative at all, but in Ontario, I think the conservative base was split in some way, although they did win provincially. Between there were a few breakaway parties that were the New Blue Party and the Ontario Party. I think the New Blue were kind of like fiscally conservative, Dave Rubin, classical liberal types, I guess. And then Ontario Party is more like nationalist. And then on the federal level, we also had the People's Party of Canada, which with Maxime Bernier, who was much more nationalist and much more hard right than the Conservatives were. And I think he was kind of fed up with how the Conservatives were more centrist. And he had all the billboards about en masse immigration, which they're kind of memes where the letters are coming off and it says end or stop ass man. It was stop mass immigration, and then some of the letters were faded, and then it said stop ass man. And that was funny. But yeah, for the most part, the hard right doesn't hold a lot of sway here, at least not in the same way as the US.
Well, from watching J.J. McCullen, I was under the impression that the left wing party was much more nationalistic, and the right wing party was more like they wanted to like trade with America. But the left wing party in Canada wanted to protect the Canadian identity, so the left didn't really want to trade with America because like
I
J.J. McCullen used some clips that portrayed like the left being more nationalistic than the right, because the right just wants to trade with America, but like the left party, according to J.J., was trying to fearmonger that Canada would lose its identity to America, that it is a left wing nationalism, and a left wing nationalism like it's like pro LGBT, pro immigration. They pride themselves of being to the left of America.
yeah yeah that certainly is uh, a part of the Canadian identity that we have better healthcare infrastructure than the US, that we have, although not amazing healthcare. It's not best it could be. But and there's a lot of pride in kind of that the attitudes are different from prevailing ones in the U.S. politics and stuff. But yeah, I don't know about the Canadian identity thing in recent years so much, but it's possible. It's possible. I'm not. Um, I think the left, if I recall correctly, or at least some people to the left will argue for more protectionism economically, so like more restrictions on trade, but not the liberals and not the conservatives, but some people to the left are more towards that kind of thing because on the local level, there uh, some of our representatives and candidates of the left are very economic, very kind of populist economically, so they might veer toward more of that kind of rhetoric or favor that kind of policy. But I know the NDP, which is the more left party, is they're pro-immigration for generally and pro-multiculturalism, which is kind of the constant with almost all the parties except for the People's Party of Canada, which was more against multiculturalism and the idea that we're more in favor of a very strong Canadian identity or whatever. But I should watch JJ's video because I've seen some of his videos before. I mean, he's very intelligent.
Yeah, Chich is really intelligent and charismatic, and he was actually in the front of the Parliament not that long ago. I think he was in front of the Canadian Parliament last month. I think so.
I think I saw something about that.
Yeah, I mean, let me just go to his YouTube channel right quick because I think he was talking about there is a new bill like the C something C-11, I think it is. I think it's the C-11 bill. I need to check. Yeah, it's the C-11 bill because it's kind of like maybe I should try to keep it brief. The C-11 bill basically just seems to be kind of like protectionism. It seems to be like to change YouTube so that YouTube would amplify Canadian voices. But it's not just that. It's not strictly changing YouTube so that it amplifies Canadian voices. It's also making sure that any YouTube video is Canadian enough. Like, like a Canadian is speaking at YouTube, but the editor has also got to be like a Canadian. And I don't know why the editor would need to be Canadian because they would be in the background anyway. And usually nobody cares who the editor is anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I know there's a lot of been a lot of law and kind of legislations proposed to the effect of that there should be more Canadian content on our TVs, on our radio stations and stuff. So that in a way there is that kind of identity thing in politics and law, because for instance a radio station has to play some number of, I think, hours of Canadian music, and then on TV they have to broadcast Canadian content on every channel that isn't just a direct feed from the US. And I think it's like CanCon standards or something. And yeah, that is that is definitely a thing here. 'Cause I think that's why Nickelback was so overplayed in the early 2000s, that they would be playing it all the time on the radio because they had it was the biggest Canadian music of the time, or one of the biggest.
Well, to be fair, Nickelback plays a lot to the American radio too.
Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. But yeah, there's definitely a push from our government to promote Canadian artists and Canadian music and Canadian TV shows and movies and stuff, which is why we have like Telefilm Canada, which gives uh, tax credits to like for film and television produced here.
I didn't
And
catch that last part. Can you repeat it?
yeah, just like Telefilm Canada gives grants or tax credits to Canadian produced content like TV shows or movies. Uh, and also, I think there's some kind of rule that if something is going to be filmed here, they have to hire Canadian actors as well. And a lot of stuff is filmed here. I think there was a movie on Disney Plus that I don't remember the title of it, but it was filmed actually in my city too. So it does happen, and there are TV shows for like Hallmark Channel that are filmed in my neighborhood as well. Or
Do you think that this nationalistic attitude helps Canada, or do you think it hurts Canada? Because JJ made the argument that it hurts Canada in the long run because his argument was, what if China did the same thing, or what if America did the same thing? Like, oh, we're going to have mostly American content, and it's kind of like, what if America did the same constants instead of just letting there be an I don't he didn't argue unregulated, but he said that YouTube is already regulated. It's already highly regulated. So it's kind of a lot like no YouTuber would want to jump through all of those hurdles.
yeah, uh, I'm a little bit. I can see it from both sides on this issue, but as for the YouTube thing, from what I have heard of it, I would agree with JJ that it's not a very good idea. And of course, uh, YouTube is like in more or less independent kind of content, or at least a avenue to, or the biggest avenue to publish independent content. So this should not really be as more more regulated than what YouTube already does, and even YouTube kind of is not the best at regulating that it could be. Um, but I don't think it's all a bad idea that they want to, like, just the idea itself that they want to promote more Canadian content, because of course a lot of the stuff that you see on TV and on the radio is from the US, which because the US has a lot of cultural output and they want to kind of give more opportunity for our artists to come up or something. So I don't think that's I don't think that's a bad thing, but I don't think it should be really micromanaging. Like if you're making a YouTube video, it has to be edited by a Canadian. It has to be all this and such and such. I don't know. I don't like the kind of super micromanagement style of regulating
Yes,
it to that end.
Yeah, to me, it's super micromanaging because what if the only person who wants to edit your videos, or what if the best person who wants to edit your videos is American? Like you could either run it to like no Canadian wants to edit your videos, or an American might offer a cheaper price, and you
Hmm.
might want to pay less for an America than pay more, like if a Canadian was charging you like $200, but an American is only charging you $50. You might want to spend the $50 on an American than $200 on a Canadian. Or an American might just have higher quality editing. Um,
Hmm. Or like the specific style you want for it.
what
Yeah,
did you say? I didn't catch that.
yeah. Or like the specific editing style that you want for your video.
Yeah,
So,
because it all depends on which type of video that you want to make. If you want to do animations, or if you are
mhm,
just doing a simplistic video, because if you're doing a really simple video, it probably doesn't need, the best editor. But depending on what you're doing, you might need a really qualified editor, and that might be an American, like. Oh, let me look at the population. I think that America has like 328 million people. What's the Canadian population?
don't know. Definitely less than the US, I believe, because we have
Yeah,
more.
it's
We're big,
38
bigger country.
million. Yeah, it's 38 million in Canada. We have significantly more. We
Hmm.
have a significantly higher population than Canada.
Yeah.
So it might be the case that it would be easier to find an American editor than a Canadian editor, and a an editor is behind the scenes anyway. You don't hear them, you don't see them, and most people don't care about them. The only people that would really care would be a different content creator. It would be somebody else who creates content and likes your editor style, and be like, hey, I want to hire your editor. Could they edit for me too? But it's kind of like when it comes to PewDiePie's videos, I think PewDiePie has like 3 editors or whatnot. Nobody goes like, who's
Yeah.
his editor? Like, who's the editor? Like,
Yeah.
usually nobody cares who the editor is, and the editor's like, it's like they don't even exist. They mostly care about the person that's there watching.
Yeah. Like the personality. Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Because like you know there's a number of reasons why you would want to have or why you would have an editor who is in another country. Maybe you're friends with someone who is only a citizen of another country, or they just have what you want, or what is something a style that fits better with what you want, or you want, or just any number of reasons. And I don't think it's really uh, I don't think it's really the government's place to get in on that if that is what's being proposed.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I don't think BCE 11 makes much sense.
No, yeah, that's yeah. Like I understand where they're coming from. Like I understand that that we want to have our give opportunity to our creators, to our editors, to our whatevers, but it's just not practical. It's not really realistic with how anything is done or how people. It's just stifling, I guess.
Yeah, I also think it's stifling, and not only that, but Americans aren't interested in different cultures. I mean,
Hmm.
Justin Bieber took off. I mean, Justin Bieber
Yeah.
is Canadian, but like think
So then,
about
yeah.
how many Americans had major crushes on Justin Bieber. Like there was even, I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not, but there was even cuts for Bieber where there were a bunch of American girls cutting their wrist because
Oh
Justin
my
Bieber
God.
cut his hair.
Jesus Christ. That's, oh, I, as a Canadian, I do not endorse this behavior. But yeah, I know some fan bases to do very extreme things, like, of course, K-pop fans too, who are kind of very um, ridiculous. Um, but yeah, there is like an impact of Canadian content on U.S. people or in the U.S. as well. Like we had Celine Dion, who is like a very, I think she lives in the U.S. now, but she was very, very popular. And then um, Avril Lavigne, Nelly Furtado, people like that, very big Canadian artists who got their start in Canada. And, they do, they're pretty recognized in the US as well. So,
Yeah, there's also Jim Carrey, and I don't like Jim
mhm.
Carrey, but well, not music, but
Yeah,
still
of
like,
course.
Jim Carrey is big, and what's the other one? The guy who was in that Christmas movie, Martin Short.
Yeah, Martin Short, yeah. He's, yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, people in America love Jim Carrey. People in America love Martin Short. Like Martin Short, he was like in the Three Amigos. He
yeah.
was like
And
he's did some like really big, big production films. Like like Americans can get really into foreign media. Like it could be
yeah.
taken to the extreme again. Like there was cuts for Bieber, so that was
Mhm.
a love for a Canadian that got taken
Yeah.
to an extreme. There was also like Tumblr girls who were American, but they wished that they were British. Just like, oh, I'm an American, but I wish I was British, and
Uh,
they tried their best to act British all the time, and they would
oh,
uh, annoy their family members because they tried to add a British. And
oh my
didn't like
God.
one guy like didn't one guy get plastic surgery to try to look at Korean, and then he
Oh
like
my
swore
God.
as a
Yes.
Korean.
Yeah, Ollie London. He had all this surgery to look like a Korean, or he wanted to look like, I think, Jimin from BTS, and I don't want to be mean, but he doesn't look like or they, I think they're they them, they don't look like a human so much as a Korean person. They just went really like crazy with plastic surgery. I mean, I I wondered for a while if they were like trolling or something, because they would be saying these really out there things about like being trans Korean pride or something. It's just God. Mhm.
Actually, I think that they were being serious. Like sure, some people are trolling, but again, like on Tumblr years back, there was a phenomenon of American girls who really wanted to be British. They intensely wanted to be British, and they spent their time trying to act British and learn
Yeah.
English vocabulary and whatnot, and try to talk and act as British as possible. So it's kind of a lot like there could be like this, celebrities, like a celebrity has a lot of power. And so it's
Mhm.
kind of like and I also wouldn't view America as um I don't know, isolationist or chauvinistic, like because
Yeah.
Americans can get really into foreign cultures. They could
Yeah.
get really deeply and intensely into it.
Yeah. and there's a lot of like you know absorption of like foreign culture into the broader American culture through like the diasporas of different countries. Like there, of course, there's the Mexican diaspora of people because Mexico's right there, and there are a lot of immigrants from Mexico who, if certain states and certain cities and certain areas are very, uh, you definitely feel the Mexican culture there, and uh, there's uh, America, it's founded by people from the U.S. as a country, was founded on people from different areas. Of course, there were different colonial powers who had certain areas and had control of certain areas. Like Louisiana was controlled or was a part of New France, and several states and several of the states like Texas and Arizona and New Mexico and California were all part of Mexico or New Spain. And then, of course, with immigration too, there's a lot of new identity as well. And so America's kind of been influenced by foreign culture from the start, and then another Canadian series that I noticed a lot of Americans are fans of is Schitt's Creek, which is actually produced by the CBC, which is like our public broadcaster, and that's pretty popular in the U.S. It stars Eugene Levy, who's from where I'm from, and his son Catherine O'Hara, who's in Home Alone, and all those people, and that's popular.
It's Creek.
Yeah, Schitt's Creek. It's
Dan
spelled like
Levy and Eugene Levy, Hanny Murphy. I don't know how. Yeah, I'm looking at. I googled it.
yeah.
Yeah, I had to Google it. Oh, I think it goes by Turkey Shoots here. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense that they would have a different name.
Or at least I don't know if I should share the Google page, but it's kind of like I'm looking at Google, and it's like it does say Schitt's Creek, but it also says Turkey Shoots, and Turkey Shoots is at the very top, and then it says like Dan Levy, Eugene Levy, Anna Murphy, Catherine O'Hara. I'm gonna be honest, I never heard of Schitt's Creek, nor have I heard of Turkey Shoots. Never heard of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
So
it aired on. Sorry. Um,
it aired in
we,
2015 and it lasted from 2015 to 2020.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more of an anime fan.
Well, yeah. Anime too, I guess, is an example of another culture or a culture of another country that has a lot of sway in the U.S. It's Japanese.
And I think that Japan joined the G7. Let me see.
Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah, the
in
G7 is an intergovernmental political forum consisting of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the United States.
yes, yeah, there are a lot of those kinds of organizations. Um, I mean, to the point of the U.S. being chauvinistic or something. There is a bit of that kind of within U.S. media, and like uh, attitudes and like foreign policy too, where they kind of, well, because they are like a superpower economically and every politically, so they do have a lot of so they have a lot of power that they wield, and that's kind of course there's the imperialism and a lot of like foreign intervention, and they have a whole, they parodied in I think it was Team America World Police, or one of the movies by the South Park creators.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, when it comes to the citizens,
Yeah,
American citizens, it's like you got people who are like really into Japan, really into Korean, like
yeah,
again, that guy who got plastic surgery to try to look
yeah.
Korean. There are
I think
people who are like, I don't know if you heard of this guy, Ville Valo.
Billy Bala. How do you spell it?
Okay, huh?
How do you spell it?
Ville Valo Valo. He is the lead singer of a Finnish metal band called Ham, which is short for His
Oh,
Infernal Majesty. And
oh,
there
okay.
is and there is a fan that I think got 5 tattoos of Villa Valo's face, tattooed on his body.
Wow, that is commitment.
Like, imagine getting a celebrity's face tattooed on your body 5 separate times.
Yeah, that's insane. That's a lot of money to have kicking around. Um, to dedicate to your being a fan of something. Even in some ways, it's even like a part of American culture, how there's this, infusion of other cultures and being a fan of other cultures. And that's a part that we also share in Canada, because there are a lot of anime fans, and there are a lot of K-pop fans, and people who are really into Eurovision, or really into, cultural aspects of all kinds of countries, not just, Canadian content and US media, which has uh, a lot of play here as well, because they're, I mean, I think it has play everywhere, but we're kind of culturally similar to the US in some ways, or we tend to agree in a lot of ways culturally and in media with the US. So we're kind of, yeah, like a lot shared, which makes sense given the proximity, and we're both kind of uh, uh, English speaking North American countries, I guess, and
Both America and
politically, and
Canada are English speaking North American countries.
mhm,
It would be natural that we would have things in common, like, and it is even interesting like how this like live stream came about, because the way I first met you is that you would just like a bunch of my tweets. And like when a person like likes a bunch of my tweets, I tend to like follow them back, because it's like if a
mhm,
person like likes a lot of my tweets, it is my assumption that we have a lot in common. And
yeah,
it's better than people who follow you but refuse to engage, because if a
yeah,
person follows you and doesn't engage, it makes me question whether or not the person is a hate follower, because I have
yeah,
been stalked on Twitter before. I have been stalked on Twitter before,
Oh no.
I've been impersonated on Twitter before, and being impersonated on Twitter was a real pain. It was a real pain,
Imagine.
but yeah, but it got straightened out, and it was actually a Canadian that helped me out with that. Like a Canadian that helped me out was Lapis. I think she's from Ottawa, Canada, actually.
Okay, yeah, the capital.
And it's kind of like
Like,
she helped me out when I was impersonated, but because when I was impersonated on Twitter, that was very, very stressful for me. Very stressful. It was humiliating for me.
yeah,
It was a low point because who would want to be impersonated? Because you could ruin relationships. You could ruin relationships. And things like that has happened on Facebook before, where people would impersonate people on Facebook, and then tell their parents that they're dead. And it's like their parents will be like, "Oh, this person died." It's like, no, like that's just an impersonator, or a person would
mhm,
impersonate somebody and, like, I don't know, cause the person to get a divorce.
yeah. Even like over the phone, I think one of my mom's coworkers got a call saying that one of their kids was in a some kind of car accident or something, and then mm, immediately after they got that call, their kid was calling them and it was completely fine. So it's like there's a lot of like kind of trickery with telling people that, oh, they're dead or something. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, is there anything you wanted to add?
Pardon? Oh,
Because it's kind of like it seems like is there more that you want to talk about, or should we end the live stream?
hmm. I don't know. Do you have any
Unless
more?
unless you have like more to say about Clarence Thomas, or you
Yeah.
know, or C-11,
Well,
or whatever you want to talk about.
yes.
Because we could go for
Well,
long.
I guess I will say I do not agree with Clarence Thomas, but I'm also not going to be racist or something towards him because that would be bad. And that is the moral of the story.
Yeah, you could criticize a person's opinions without bringing up their race. You could just
Yeah,
criticize, like,
yeah,
you could criticize, like, like his take on Roe v. Wade. Not only that, but he got more hatred than any of the white justices, which I thought was
that's
really weird. Like,
unfair.
like why did he get more hatred than any of the white
Yeah,
justices?
they should
Like,
all be
why didn't you care about
eradicated.
the white justice that voted against Roe v. Wade?
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Like criticize them for their actions, not for their ethnicity, their gender, their whatever. Um, you know, their character, their opinions, their behavior, not things that are not that.
Yeah, criticize the things that they can't control. Don't criticize the things that they cannot control.
Yeah, exactly. That's important.
Do you have any idea, like, where it probably comes from? Like, like, what's could like like are you like, I mean, I would wonder why, like, how people from the left could be so racist. Unless the only thing that I could think of was for it to be insincere from the very beginning, like partisan hackery, like they
Yeah,
only care about getting black people to vote Democrats, but they don't really care about black people. Like, it's just like black votes matter, but black people don't
yeah,
matter. It's just their votes that matter.
Yeah, I think there definitely is an element of that, and I think they're usually like very uh, kind of privileged or sheltered liberal types who kind of look down on minorities from the perspective that they're like, oh no, you're going against your own interest or whatever by not voting for this Democrat who is gonna not live up to what to any to, is not going to materially improve anything for you. Or, yeah, is like I think they don't they don't care as much about the person rather than the feeling that they are caring about the person. Like the it's like the definition of condescension or condescending. I don't know if condescension is a word.
Yeah, I just don't get the feeling that they genuinely care about black people because, like, let's just say that you have black friends. Like, how could you ever think of saying the N word? Because it's like, if you say the N word about anybody who disagrees with you, it's like when your, black friends, like, be concerned that you call them the N word one day the moment you have an issue with
Yeah.
their opinion.
Yeah.
Because one thing that I found interesting is that, Cat's black, and she speaks, Professor Flowers, who are all black left wing content creators, said that they experienced far more racism from the left than they ever had from the right.
Yeah. I think left wing racism or racism that is done from a person who brands himself as very liberal and progressive is much more insidious because it's coming from a place where a lot of people of minority groups are feel like they should be safe in those spaces, and then it's the racism comes out or the homophobia comes out, the transphobia comes out. It's like they they'll say they're fighting for you, but then they'll be looking down on you all the way.
Yeah, because if you truly care somebody, you wouldn't call, like, if you truly cared about black people, you wouldn't so easily call Clarence Thomas the N word. And you
Yeah.
wouldn't so easily make all these racist remarks about him because it wasn't just that the N word was said, it was like all of the, racist remarks. Like, did he forget that he's black? Like, he forgot that he's
Yeah.
black and whatnot. And, some, like, it was really even ironic when Whoopi Goldberg said that, like he could be like, if that's something along the lines of that she could be one third of a human being or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just yeah, it's a very shallow way of looking at someone. And if you know one one black person who is does something you don't like brings out the desire to say the N word in you, it means you already have the desire to say the N word in you.
Yeah, it means you already how did it start to say the N word. It
Yeah,
means that it's already part of your vocabulary.
yeah,
It means that it's already part of your thinking process.
yeah.
And the reason why, like it goes back to like Cat Black, and she speaks, and Professor Flowers, who all make left wing contents. They're all left wing contents by creators saying that the racism is worse on the left than it's on the right. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a lot like it's like, do do white people on the left really care about black issues, or do they want black people to stay in line? And like, if a black person gets out of line, like a black person is a child, like a black
Yeah,
person is a child that needs to stay in line. And it's like, if you're black, you need to be walk in the eggshells, be afraid of stepping out of line, because if you
yeah,
step out of line, it's like, like you could, like, I don't know, get a lot of hatred from your own community.
yeah. Like they wouldn't. Yeah, like the and people who called Clarence Thomas that word, they wouldn't call like Amy Coney Barrett the N word or something. Like if because that should be enough to make them think, hey, maybe I'm doing something wrong here. Maybe I'm treating someone. Maybe I'm, you know, not as egalitarian as I have envisioned myself to be. If I'm my first instinct is to be like, he's black, I'm gonna say this thing.
Yeah, Clarence Thomas received more hatred than any of the white justices. Like, I didn't really see any complaints. Like, there was, what's your name, that girl who was with Bill Clinton? That Bill Clinton,
Monica
that
Lewinsky.
girl. Like, huh?
Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah, like, only Monica Lewinsky is the only person that criticized, like, all of the justices. Like, like, Monica Lewinsky is the only person that I've seen criticize all of the justices. But for pretty much everybody else, the like um there was like a bunch of hatred towards Clarence Thomas, specifically, like, absolving the white justices of anything. It's like all of the hatred was like towards Clarence Thomas, and they all made it racial. It was like, this is your opinion. It was all a bunch of racist
Mm-hmm.
jokes. And
Yeah,
and if you can make racist jokes that easily, then it makes the activism insincere. Like, it makes
yeah,
the fights racism activism very, very insincere and hollow.
yeah, exactly. Like, uh, and even if they justify it with some kind of, oh, Clarence Thomas should know better because he's black, it's like, why do you know, why do you have this, expectation that black people have to be, work harder to be better people than, or have to be better people than white people? It means don't you don't think that, you're not seeing the action or the opinion first, and you're looking at it like this this black person is not in their place. Oh, this woman is not in their place. This trans person is not in their place. And yeah, there are going to be people of every identity category, of every, walk of life, who are going to do horrible things, who are going to say horrible things, who are going to be not very good. But it's not like if Vosh was going to call Blair White like the T word or something, or was going to, well, I guess he does kind of do the misogyny thing already. um, Obviously, Vosh didn't call Clarence Thomas the N word, or not to my knowledge. Maybe I don't want to speculate on that. But yeah, it's not right. Not right.
Somebody left a couple of comments. This by Bobby B. More concerned with virtue signaling than helping anyone. I agree with that. I agree with that. Like, I've been thinking the exact same thing, more concerned with virtue signaling than helping anyone. I've been
Yeah,
thinking the exact same thing the past few days.
that's
um,
true. Yeah.
or worse, in a group as they claim are their intentions. Yeah, I hear that. They did Kavanaugh the same way they did Thomas in both their approval hearings. They were accused they were accused of abhorrent things based on claims never recorded prior to their hearings. Partisanship, not racism. Um, Vosh has no principles. He only cares about winning. Cat Black actually described a Vosh, in a similar way. In a similar way, like Vosh accused, no, Cat's Black accused Vosh of only caring about numbers. Vosh
Yeah.
has no principles. He only cares about winning, like most leftists. Not trust
Mm.
nothing he says. Well, I mean, wouldn't most leftists be like the fan base and not the creator themselves? But most people on the left would fall under the fan base and not the creator, because a
Yeah.
creator would just be a small subset of people, because you're going to see like some people like with really high numbers, but if it, like, let's just say like Vosh blocked you could still find Vosh fans, even though you can't find a Vosh, because the numbers would be like the fan base. The real numbers would be the fan base, not the creator. But usually people would be focused on the creator. Well, sometimes people focus
Yeah.
on the fan base. Sometimes, like particularly when the fan base harasses somebody, like I got harassed by Sargon fans, or I've gotten harassed by Bearing fans, or I got harassed by Blair White fans or Vosh fans. I mean, these days to be Vosh fans.
Yeah. I've noticed from the Vosh debates that I've listened to that he does have this kind of style where he's not always arguing from facts. Like he might run his actual knowledge of the subject dry, and then just start yelling over him with things that he imagines to be true, maybe, and or just like attacks on the person that he's debating with, whether or not I agree with that person. And it's just a bad. I think it's a bad strategy. Like he was debating. Uh, I think two separate occasions in debates that I have seen where he made himself look very bad by yelling over people, and being very abrasive and kind of attacking them. I think the Marxist Leninist from Twitter, Chaos is Mel, who he debated one time, and then I think Caleb Maupin, although I don't really care for him very much. He, I think Vosh did come out looking worse because he was very. He seemed to just not know enough to actually make his points, but he was very bent on, hammering into and just dragging these people through the mud, even if he doesn't know how to do it. So.
I noticed a pattern of Vosh interrupting people while they're talking, like interrupting people mid sentence. And I never understood the appeal, because it's kind of like, if you interrupt somebody mid a sentence, how would you know what they're going to say? It's like, do you have ESP? Like, are you psychic or
Yeah.
something?
Mm-hmm. It's just very presumptuous. I think Vosh is very presumptuous in a lot of ways, and a lot of kind of the people who do the same kind of stuff that he does are presumptuous in that way, and sometimes it just makes them look really, really bad. Like I think Xander Hall one time, who was or I think it was one of the first debates that Lauren Southern was in when she came back to from, I guess, having kids and getting married and moving to Australia and all this, um, where Xander Hall and Lauren Southern were debating over her children's book, The ABCs of Morality. And towards, the second half of the debate, Xander Hall just kind of, uh, I think he exhausted himself. And for that reason, most people considered Lauren Southern the winner of the debate. And Lauren Southern is very slick. She's very like,
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm familiar with that because I made a video on her a long time ago. Like I made a video on her, like I forgot when, but I do know I got bombarded with downvotes by Lauren Southern fans. But it's basically me calling Laura Southern out as a racist because it's kind of like me. I watch a lot of live streams from both sides of the fence, and it's kind of a lot like like me calling Southern Laura Southern out actually involves like me watching YouTube videos and live streams from like different sides of the fence, and I could let like I collected this clip of Richard Spencer calling out Laura Southern. And I even used like the golden one calling out Laura Southern because back when I was making videos, like people were arguing that the left calls everybody racist. So I couldn't really use a clip from the left because it's like like this was
yeah,
back when the anti SJW content was really strong, and everybody was saying like, "Well, the left calls everybody racist." So what I did was that I collected a clip from Richard Spencer. And a good one where Richard Spencer was in a live stream with other orators and like, like Lauren Southern, like you're kind of like one of us, like you have a public face and a private face where in public you try to you move to censor, but privately you are agreeing with us on absolutely everything. She has a public face and a private
I
face.
think Baron Meyer said something to that effect as well, on one of her suspended Twitter accounts. She or kind of vagued about it, or that right wingers she used to hang out with, and I think she used to be best friends with Lauren Southern, would be openly racist towards minorities in private. So I think that agrees
Oh,
with what
Darren
you're saying.
Myers said that Lawrence Sutton was openly racist to minorities in private.
Yeah, I believe so. I think it was on one of her last Twitter accounts before getting suspended again. Because she had a channel for a while where she uploaded a few videos that were very like kind of casual, and she was like talking from a couch about her history on YouTube, and then she also had a Twitter around that time that where she uh, kind of um, well, just during that period she went back on a lot of the things that she used to advocate for, and of course she was doing that kind of uh, from her original channel too, towards the end of it when she made the "Dear Non-Binary People, I'm Sorry," which got a lot of uh, dislikes.
I would imagine it would get dislikes from both sides, though.
Yeah.
Because, that's what happened to Blair White, where Blair White apologized to Riley Dennis, and she got a downvotes from both sides, where people on her camp was like, do not apologize to those people. You never apologize to those people. And people on the left were like, well, think about the harm you've done up to this point. Because I'm talking about like immediately after the video, the reactions immediately afterwards, not like like people like not forgiving her because of the content she made after the video. I was talking about like immediately after the content was released. Like the people were like, well, we don't like you because of the videos you made up to that point, and you've caused so much harm and so much damage.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess a lot of people had a problem with the fact that her videos that uh, motivated a lot of people towards to dislike bomb and go in the comments and or leave hate comments on Riley's videos were still up at the time as well, or are still up now. And then, but I think Blair White had also uh, didn't uh, apologize for spreading like misinformation or being wrong about certain things uh, a couple of times, because I think she made a response video to someone who later mentioned, or who later said that they were kind of uh, not being serious, or were trying to use her logic against her or something. I'm not sure if I'm misremembering, but I think it was a video by someone named Helena of Detroit. And it was one of her or Blair White responded to her in one of her um, triggered T-word videos that she used to make around the same time that she was also making the content about Riley Dennis.
I don't know about Helena of Detroit, but I mean, when it comes to Raleigh Dennis receiving Kate, I mean, it was really popular to make videos against Raleigh Dennis. Like, there
Yeah.
were like millions. I mean, I'm probably being hyperbolic, but there were like millions of videos against Raleigh Dennis. Like, there was like
Mm-hmm.
videos that Sargon made. There was videos that Baring made. There was videos that even
Andrew Wood, yeah.
tinier channels, like even tinier small channels with only like 100, only like 100 subscribers, like it, Raleigh Dennis received people made video responses to Raleigh Dennis, um like, I don't know, millions of different accounts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I remember. And not all of them are still up. I think Shuan had made at least one, probably more than one, responding to her. And but she took them down and kind of made an apology video to Riley and Milo Stewart, who were kind of the big people who it was very popular to respond to. So, because I think she was apologizing for saying for questioning that they were trans or something, or saying that they're not trans because they're not binary, which she I think ContraPoints actually changed her mind about that or something, if I'm not misremembering the history about it.
Yeah, I don't really remember the history of it too well. But I do know that, Blair White made a tearful apology video to Raleigh Dennis.
Mm.
And I
I'm
do remember Sean Head's apology video to Riley Dennis and what was the other one? Milo Stewart's. And she got a lot of hatred from the anti SJWs. A lot of hatred. Not only that, but she also received hatred because she was one of the very first people to be really nice to Lacey Green, but I think that the people were more angry because she was nice to Lacey Green in a way that threw everybody else under the bus. Like, I'm like nice, unlike the other anti-SGWs. Like, she kind of framed it in a way that kind of drew everybody else under the bus. And it's like, wow, thank you for framing kids in a way that makes us look like monsters.
sorry. I think I put my headphones on the wrong way. Okay.
Bobby B says leftists are left wing extremists, socialists, Marxists, communists, etc. They are not liberals. So I separate the two between sane and extremists. Laugh aloud.
Well, yeah, they're different.
Yeah, liberalism in Europe. I think in Europe, liberalism would be center left. But actually, I
I think
think, no. Let me correct
center
myself.
right, yeah.
In Europe, neoliberalism,
Oh yeah,
neoliberalism would be center right because there are different types of liberalism. There are
yeah,
actually a wide range of liberalism. There's like classical liberalism. There's neoliberalism. There is social liberalism. There
hmm
is liberal conservatism. There's conservative liberalism. There is like
yeah,
all these variety of liberalism, and it gets like down to liberal or conservative, which is actually like a false dichotomy because there is a wide range of liberalism, like classical, neo, like there's just all these conservative liberalism. There's just all of
hmm
these variety of
yeah.
liberalism.
I think liberalism in the United States kind of represents, or what is considered to be the left wing side of the political system, or political debate, at least in the mainstream. And then, which is obviously, there's a lot of pushback on that from leftists, understandably. And then in Europe, in Canada, they're kind of socially progressive centrists, uh, and in Europe, I think a lot of parties that call themselves liberal or that have liberal in the name tend to be more towards a right wing liberalism, whereas well, there are a lot of parties that have like socialist in the name, like the Socialist Party or the Socialist Workers Party of Spain. That is kind of more center left social democracy, kind of NATO EU type, uh, which is somewhat comparable to the kind of left in the U.S. Or the kind of liberalism in the U.S. I mean, uh, although the U.S. liberalism is more, I think it's more moderate because uh, they attend or more centrist because they tend to you know well reflect more of the broader opinions of the U.S. and the establishment, and then the in Europe they're more for like universal healthcare and like a basic social safety net and that kind of stuff. Although they're not socialists in the same way that Marxists are socialists, or uh, uh, and not socialists in the same way. And then
Yeah, because I remember that in most of Europe, liberalism, and I think in Canada too, that liberalism would be center right. Because most,
yeah,
yeah, because I think like like okay, like in England, like they have universal health care, and in Canada
yeah,
they also have. I think most of Europe has universal health care. I think most first world countries have universal health care. Like
mhm,
even Japan has like universal health care.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, and I think we also I think we had a conversation before about Jeremy Corbyn. Like you said, like you're against racism, but you also don't like it. Like when Jeremy Corbyn is, or how in England they're anti-Semitic. How the left wing can be so openly anti-Semitic in England. I think you said that.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think Jeremy Corbyn is like a horrible person or anything. Although I do think he kind of has maybe stumbled into some not so great um, areas, like kind of people who deny the uh, Bosnian genocide or something. I think he's associated with those people a little too much for comfort. Um, and then with with regards to the anti-Semitism, I think it's possible as well. Although, like, I'm not a supporter of Israel or anything, because and neither is Jeremy Corbyn, so I don't. But I think sometimes there's a kind of coalition type effect with the pro-Palestinian movement because it doesn't have a lot of support from the mainstream. That it'll be a wide array of people who uh, don't have necessarily the same goals after Palestinians, secure their rights and whatever. Because a lot of kind of Nick Fuentes type people tend to be lean more towards Palestine than Israel, but for a different reason from why Palestinian student activists might be for it, because they of course Nick Fuentes is not a big fan of Jewish people having much of a say over any kind of politics or anything.
Yeah, same thing with Eden Roth. Like when like Eden Roth, he is also pro-Palestine. Like the last time I checked, Eden Roth was pro-Palestine, but that's because he's not a huge fan of the Jews.
Yeah, not a huge fan of the Jews. I imagine when you said that when Dreg was playing in the Political Compass rap, where he was like, although gotta admit, not a big fan of the Jews or something.
Oh, you watched the Political Compass rap?
Oh, of course. I watched a lot of Dreg's videos. Not the most recent ones, but I've seen a good number.
Yeah,
Seen all
I've
of Center's
seen
life.
I've
Yeah.
seen a good number of Truck's videos. I have seen a good number of his videos.
Mm-hmm. He's definitely very funny. He's got a good sense, certainly a sense of humor. About.
Yeah, my favorite video was when he talked about post truth. I really like his video on post truth.
Yeah, that was very good. I remember I watched that one a while ago. It was very. He's very uh, he's very intelligent. Has a lot of I don't know how to say it as much. He has such an eloquent approach to his very wacky humor, and, and I like that. I guess technically it's catering to the more. Oh, I was going to say to the fringes, like to people who are very and who know a lot about certain politics, certain kind of politics, of course, because it's the extremes being united against the centers. But more than that, it's like to even know about a lot of these things, you have to be very politically minded.
Though I, I do think he's from being on his subreddit, it seems like most of his fan base is left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that does seem. I think he himself is probably to the libertarian left, although maybe
He's
not
a
like
social
super far.
democrat. The
Yeah.
last thing he said was that he was a social democrat.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So that would be, I guess, in Canada, in Canadian terms, that would be like the NDP, the New Democratic Party, which is kind of in like the 1960s. I think Tommy Douglas. I don't know if he was one of the fathers of Canadian social democracy. Or he was kind of a democratic socialist, but he was like advocated for a lot of the kind of to the more left wing stuff that the early kind of more socialist leaning social democrats of the NDP were um, responsible for a lot of the more kind of left wing developments that we've had in our system.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't know much about Canadian politics. I do know your prime minister is Justin Trudeau, but mainly because of all of the controversy around the Justin Trudeau.
Oh
And
Lord, yes.
yeah, the controversy around, like I don't know about the other prime ministers because but it's like Justin Trudeau, like you're probably already familiar with the controversy
Yeah,
surrounding him.
I sure am.
And
Yeah, I
see,
even.
Bill C-11. I'm familiar with that because I watched J.J. McCollum because I saw Drake interview J.J. McCollum on Twitch. Then I started watching J.J. McCollum, and it's like, oh, this guy is very insightful.
Mhm. Yeah, he definitely is. I like the videos that I've seen of him, and I'll probably watch some more after this stream,
You know,
especially the one about the. Sorry.
you know what I find amazing? Like, I'm presuming that you're to the left, right?
Yes.
What's really weird is that like in America you can see like this big like hatred, or well, I wouldn't call it hatred, but it could lean towards hatred. It could definitely lean towards hatred, but it's kind of like more like football. Like Democrats versus conservative, liberals versus conservative. It's kind of like football teams where it's like like with American politics, it does feel like it's almost like a football team, and it's like, oh, the lib, TARD, it's like the libs, and like the cons. Sometimes people say conserva, TARD, and whatnot, and it's kind of like
Yeah.
it's like this big, like liberals versus conservative, but it's like J.J. McCollum is a conservative, and you're to the left, but it's kind of like, oh yeah, J.J. makes great videos, and I'm gonna watch more. Which like you don't really see that in America. You don't really see that. It's kind of like football. It's like football, liberal versus conservative. It's like
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a bit less of the political divide that there is in the U.S. Over being a liberal or conservative here, because of course they don't like most people where I live are more kind of not even liberal, like where I live, we're like an NDP, we're represented locally by an NDP person in the parliament, I think. But our premier is Doug Ford. He's kind of he's of the Progressive Conservative Party, which is they're kind of in the I don't know how to describe progressive conservatism. It's kind of they're not like hard right conservatism, or not conservative in the traditional sense of like, but they're conservative and like I don't know how to describe it. They're more like more fiscally to the right, although fiscally to the right is a different thing in Canada than the US, and kind of moderate on social issues, and not as much as like they're not super like reactionary or progressive.
yeah, yeah. With America, it's like it's more like liberal versus conservative. It's almost like I don't know. It does feel a bit like football.
Yeah.
football antagonism. Like, you're
Mm,
either an Alabama fan or you're a fan of a football team that's isn't Alabama.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know people who are like, a lot of people are, very much like, against like conservatism, or conservatives and conservatism, like the party. Like my um, my opa's wife, or grandma, is she's very against the conservative. She's very like, as a teacher, she said she'll never vote for it. Never in her life will she vote for a conservative. But it's not as, I guess, all consuming as it is in the, seemingly in the U.S., where it's like a or a Democrat or a Republican. You're going to fall into either camp, and it's going to be really, it's going to be hard to get through Thanksgiving dinner or something like that. I don't know if that's actually reflective of the reality for a person who lives there in the U.S.
Yeah, there has been, Thanksgiving drama videos in the United States where, like, it's basically political drama, and like they will post it on Facebook of people yelling at each other, screaming at each other, and like throwing chairs at each other.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, yeah, that's how it is sometimes. Uh, Although, there are political disagreements in my family, and like very noticeable ones. Like my grandma, um, is more in favor of, you know or is more sympathetic to Russia in the situation in Ukraine right now, in, on the basis of, you know Putin or Russia had the agreement with no NATO expansion into the east or something, and then she has all that reasoning, for it, and then she's kind of butted heads with, um, my mom, although my mom not so much with my other grandma on that side, because my opa remarried. Uh, so they've kind of had very vocal disagreements about that, and, on a couple of political issues. But there's no like, hatred or throwing chairs or anything. Although my grandma thinks that they're being programmed or something by the mainstream media, which, is, I mean, I'm not gonna go into that.
In America, I've heard of people who've gotten a divorce because it's like, okay, some people, okay, there's this woman who was pro Hillary and a guy who was pro Trump, and the election destroyed their marriage because it cost them to get a divorce.
Mm, yeah, probably has happened over here that, that people have divorced over politics, but I just don't think it's I don't think it's common for that to happen. I mean, I don't know how common it is over there, but it's, it probably happens more.
So is there anything more that you would like to talk about, or should I end the live stream?
Uh, I think we've covered, a lot of ground.
All right. Well, thank you for coming. Is there anything you would like to share? I already put your Twitter your Twitter in the description below. People could follow you on Twitter if they go to the description.
yeah, that's the big one. I do have a YouTube channel, but I don't post. I haven't posted on it since I posted like 2 years ago. I posted a video I made for school, which is like a love letter to Danny DeVito or something.
Oh, so you want people to Google search love letter to Danny DeVito?
Or Dear Danny DeVito. Of course, you don't have to. You don't have to search that. But that was my school project. I guess I don't really have much of a YouTube uh, channel to show right now. Maybe in the future I will. But yeah, my Twitter's the big one, and yeah.
Okay, everybody, please follow Lima for Reals on Twitter. All right, Lime,
Thank you.
thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so
And
much.
thank you all for watching. Bye
Yes.
everybody.
Bye.